Good evening, everybody. I'm unmuted. Happy, what is it, Tuesday? I hope you had a happy Tuesday. I just came home, literally just now. So thank you so much for waiting. The Clinton Global Initiative is over. It's been very, very positively dramatic 2 days. And let me fill 2 minutes waiting until others join. Um, it was what I was just talking about with somebody. Um, what was really positive and very much different, because when it comes to politics or it comes to politicians, we use the Twitter shitter, and we use YouTube and TikTok and mass media. Don't even get me started on that, or mainstream media, legacy media, whatever that legacy is at this point. There's so much negativity and so much inaction, right? Everything we talk about, and I talked with Clinton initiative today, the Clinton Global Initiative today. There is so much inaction. Politics now are filling our minds, filling our phones, filling our days, right, or our informational sources with he said, she is bad, he is bad, all this nastiness. When it comes to MAGA movement, everything is just completely flipped upside down. And then we're just spending, and please let me know if you do agree. And by the way, if it's first time for you joining, I present actual news. Thank you for joining. Please ask questions, communicate, add your voice to our conversation. This here is our conversation, okay? It's a community thing, news community, actual news community. um and let me know if that's for you applicable somehow. We spend majority of our time figuring out if something is true or not. So we watch something and we're like, either why aren't they covering this, which I know for a fact does happen, or if whatever I'm reading, is it true, or is it AI, or is it propaganda, is it Russian propaganda? Then you have variety: Russian, Chinese, whatever, Iranian. Somebody's hacking somebody, then Trump is spewing hatred and lies, and then you have to dig as to, is it true, is it not true, right? Because it's said so many times, then it becomes some sort of a public opinion. Then you go to work and you face other people that are of a particular political mindset, but there's so much inaction. Now, talking about the Clinton Global Initiative, I had absolutely no clue about the organization. I had absolutely, if anything, I've heard the propaganda stuff, right? All this lies, pretty much, right? And so what I learned is, first of all, it's a nonprofit, but it's not in a way where they are hiring somebody or whatever. It's a hub, so to speak, right? If you have an idea and you want to make change happen, they help you to figure out what your goal will be, and they help you to figure out what your program will be or whatever, and they set a deadline, and then they connect you with resources, whether it's financial, whether it's political, whether it's whatever. And they of course have was over 1,400 different initiatives within the organization, and they affect and benefit over 500 million people, to as for today, which is huge. And so, what we saw, all of us, not just media, but everybody, is 2 days filled from 7:30 in the morning, started at 8:30 till 7 at night. Constantly, they pick an issue, and then there is this uh, guy or girl or them on the stage, and they're saying, "Look, I pledged this." Last year or whatever years ago, and I achieved this, and I overachieved this. And it goes, a variety goes from Matt Damon to refugees that help other refugees. And just being in that environment for 2 days where there's so much action, where people say, look, I wanted this was my reason for wanting this, and now I achieved this, and this is my next plan. And then comes the next guy and next guy, right? And then of course known people were there, and politicians were there. And today I was in session with governor of Illinois, Pritzker, and Bashar, the governor of Kentucky, and they talked about EVs, right, and promoting EVs and offering discounts. But then, how do you manage the charging, right? So then, entrepreneurs came in who said, "Look, to charge 10 cars or 10 like transporters, right? If there are EVs at once, if you charge." 100 of those things at the same time, you will use as much electricity as a stadium packed at Super Bowl. So you certainly can't do it in every single city, but then what are 100 trucks? Nothing, right? So we have to figure out how this works. And then others came in and they came in with a solution, then others came in with a budget. So you've just learning how to solve problems, if anything. And that, just being in that environment, first and foremost, gives you hope because you see people doing that, not talking about things. And then that's what I mentioned today. All of that happens in the same New York City while UN happens. And United Nations set those development goals. I worked at UN more than 10 years ago. I joined UN more than 10 years ago. And we were discussing those development goals. And it's been 10 years, and they set the goals for 2030 or whatever. And so they've been negotiating that for years. I was in work groups where we would negotiate a comma or a period or exclamation point or whatever. Like, it just took years. Now, they set the goals, same about climate and women's rights and kids and protecting and refugees and, whatever UN deals with. Guess how much of those goals have been executed? 37%. 10 years in. And so they're spending a week. Yeah, of course, you have speeches, and I'm going to show you some speeches and have a readout. But as much you will see in my readout that so much are just simple lies. Like, Iran just sits there and says, we're not supplying Russia with any missiles. Meanwhile, next to him sits Zelensky, whose country is being bombed as recent as today. Now, next to them sits Russia that guides now Security Council, because why not? They're doing genocide, but why not? And says, we didn't provoke anybody. We're not shooting anything. We don't even know. What the hell happened? Oh, Zelensky is crazy. So imagine how you feel, whether you press or whatever. What is the feeling in that room? Because when you're surrounded with lies, and this is cheap politics. Yes, cheap politics. Politics with anything, right? Perhaps you work at a company, you come to the office, somebody's more loved than the other. So it's all political. When you put 2-3 people together, you get politics. But it's cheap politics. It leads to nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they sit there for a week. What's going to happen afterwards? Nothing. China said they're not doing anything with Indo-Pacific. And I have, in fact, a readout of a hot mic that Biden forgot to turn off in the Quad meeting. Have you heard that? About China. And I have a readout about it. So they're sitting there lying. Iran is lying. Russia is lying. Ukraine is being bombed. Gaza is being bombed. Netanyahu canceled his trip. He's not coming to UN now at all. Supposed to come on Friday. Delayed because of Lebanon. Now he's not coming at all. Why? Because Germany's stopped sending arms, UK stopped sending arms, and now what, are you going to show up and do a dance when he's bombing Lebanon? I'm not saying he's not supposed to or whatever. I'm just for a fact. So this week leads to no achievement. And then on the other hand, in the same city, and it has nothing to do with Clintons. It has everything to do with ability to gather doers who have accomplished stuff, what they promised. It's the really incredible feeling. So, tomorrow I'll be at the UN, to say the least. So we'll hear more about it. But this is just so different. Nazrul, hello. How are you? Welcome. Yes, it's your first time joining. Welcome. You're very welcome here. It's actual news. Listen, if it's actual news, many things you will love, many things you will hate, but it's just truth. So, I add my opinion to it, and I certainly state if that's my opinion. And I will be doing that, even though so more from now on. And in the town hall, by the way, in tonight's email that will be coming soon, um, I will share about, no, not today actually. I have to figure out we're going to meet on Friday or on Saturday morning. You guys voted majority for Friday night, so we keep it for Friday night as of now, but I'll confirm it on Thursday, if my schedule changes or anything. Like tomorrow, for instance, I can't. And I just figured that out now. So, hi, Keith. What was the most memorable thing that you saw or heard? The ending, and I have the videos for you. The ending of, I worked in the same room with Hillary Clinton 10 years ago. That's why for me it was mind blowing that Chelsea is a doctor, Dr. Chelsea Clinton, and she's 44 and has 3 children. For me, it was like I feel still like I'm 13. Like, where's the time going? But I know that Hillary is very straightforward. But the way they were straightforward here, this you probably would not hear from politicians. She laid it out about Trump straight, like forward. There's no lies, no anything. Bill, I'm gonna play a video. He laid out like everything, like literally not calling him by name, but explaining what's at stake. And it just, what I have heard, that they had to somehow have the conference out of blue or faster or sooner, whatever. Maybe it's related to give Biden an award. I don't know. Maybe to put it together with a climate week that coincided with the UN thing in New York. I don't know. But that's why the city is like crazy. Now Biden decided to shop on Madison Avenue, and I couldn't get home for an hour because, it blocked everything. And then he decided to get dinner. We're like, come on, order a takeout. But it's all of those people everywhere in the city, so it's blocked. But anyway, but the way they spoke about the importance of this year, that this year, around 60 countries, I think 58, between 58 and 60, are having elections. Now think what it matters, how much it matters to our future. If 60 countries out of 120, whatever, are voting on a new leader, half of our demographic is getting new leaders. And if one or two or few or majority, where are we going to end up then? So for that reason, they didn't sugarcoat anything. For me, that was really eye-opening, because I have never joined any political event where somebody was straightforward and straightforward truth. Like I talked to, and that was actually, maybe that's Keith, the biggest thing. I saw reporters who were open, who were helpful, and I was helpful to them, and we could collaborate and we could talk, and they shared my opinion. That was so new, because when I go to the White House, Honey Boo Boo with the Doocy Schmoosey and all of them, nobody would give you an email address or forward you a statement, because they think that's some sort of extra special activity and you have to hustle for the muscle. It's just that environment where they're doers and they're collaborative, very different. But also Hillary and Bill being very straightforward. This experience sounds so inspiring, also motivating. We can do so much good by working together. And Terry, please join our town hall, because I ain't going to share this here. By the way, since DNC featured our event, I think we have already 300 more people signed up. So the town hall is only for those who are subscribed to newsletter, whether free or not. But subscribe, because I know if you're reading that, you're not a MAGA. That was my whole thing with DNC. Yes, it goes through DNC, but I'm sure there will be one of you or many MAGA people just to mess with us. So I don't want to share anything with weird people. No offense. Everybody decides, they think I'm weird, fine. And another thing, if it really happens on X that they will unblock everybody, if I will face insults the way, the reason why I blocked certain people, I'm not sure I will continue using that platform. I don't want to be called all type of names, and also threats to me, my family. And then they start screenshotting my parents' pictures. They find it somewhere. So all of that mess, I don't want to be part of it. So hopefully he's not going to unblock. But if that will lead to that, then certainly newsletter will be our way of communication, and figure out the rest. So okay. Let me have a readout, and then we end with the CGI, the Clinton Global Initiative. Very raw footage because I haven't put it all together yet, so I'm just going to share as is. Now, first, President Biden has been briefed today on the tropical storm Helene, or Helene. If you are in the proximity, if this affects you in any type of way, I don't have a map here. No. Please take it seriously, right? So Biden-Harris administration is in touch with officials from states in the path of the storm. Federal resources and personnel are pre-positioned, including generators, food, and water, along with search and rescue and power restoration teams. At the direction of the president, FEMA has also deployed teams to Florida and Alabama to embed with local emergency response personnel to support their efforts as needed. They urge residents in the path of the storm to stay vigilant. Visit ready.gov. So if you're in Alabama, Florida, but also check the map, it goes higher. Yeah, we're not calling it hurricane, but tropical storm can be as bad. Okay, let's not go for kicks and giggles. Ready.gov. Visit that for tips on how to stay safe, and please take the warnings of local officials seriously, and especially those instructed to evacuate. Okay? Now, already thinking ahead, well, no, this is Storm Debbie. Remember the Debbie? Yeah, she was not that, the cinnamon bun Debbie. She was messy. President Biden has declared major disaster in Georgia due to Tropical Storm Debbie, which was from August 4th to August 20th. And he they allocated money and budget to Florida. He also, in Georgia, and he did also the same thing for Florida as well later. So if this is applicable to you, if you suffered something from any damage from Storm Debbie, you don't know who to call, DM me, email me, and reply to newsletter, because we get those contacts. I'm not spreading them around because weird people do weird things, but let me know if anything. I will do my best to connect you with FEMA. Now, in other news, which is kind of international and kind of interesting, because after the Quad meeting with Japan, Australia, Biden, and India, right now this happened on September 23rd. Yesterday, Japanese jet fighters fired warning flares at a Russian military plane. F around, find out. That intruded into Japan's airspace. This marks the first instance of Tokyo adopting such an assertive approach to address airspace violations, which have predominantly been carried out by Moscow. So Moscow did F around a lot. Now they fired shots, to get them out of there. Also, when it comes to Lebanon and Israel, certainly U.S. is protecting Israel. So U.S. is deploying a small number of additional troops to the Middle East due to rising violence between Israel and Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is also, of course, shooting at Israel. They're shooting specifically at Haifa, but it can also, which is northern Israel, it can also go down. So, U.S. is there to protect. For that reason, there's an increasing risk of a regional conflict. While the exact number and roles of new forces are undisclosed, the Pentagon indicated that the U.S. has around 40,000 troops in the area. Concurrently, the USS Truman and other Navy ships have set sail for the region, allowing the possibility of maintaining both the Truman and the USS Lincoln in the area of tension if tensions escalate. So they need both. Why? If Gaza escalates, if northern Israel escalates, then they're stationed right in the south of it. They can protect. Now, today, certainly everybody's in New York. So, today, senior representatives from Austria, Australia, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, Germany, Netherlands, Norway, United Kingdom, and the United States convened virtually for a meeting of the International Contact Group on Civilian Harm Mitigation and Response. The participants discussed the importance of mitigating civilian harm caused by military operations, as well as responding effectively when civilian harm does occur. The participants also emphasized the efforts to mitigate and respond to civilian harm reflect civilian harm, which reflects mutual values and directly contributes to both mission success and public confidence in the armed forces. All the representatives from participating countries, guided by their shared values and commitment to preserving international norms, expressed their commitment to promote civilian harm mitigation. Why? Because then they can push against Israel doing certain things to certain Palestinians and Hamas, who they take hostage. Their reports now, Israel is investigating Israel. That's the problem, and they say nothing is happening. But then, if you have international community, they report on certain, actions that do not go with along with human rights or any law that would allow that. Now, we don't have to forget what. Hamas or Hezbollah are doing to people in general too. Those are terrorist organizations. Think about what they did last October in Israel to innocent civilians. Think about everybody that they're holding hostage and what they're doing to them, and if those people are even alive. So, um, it's a balancing act. Now, when it comes to Russia, back to Russia, this is our quick news. Just read out. The Russian State Duma, which is their parliament, has conceptually agreed to introduce fines for agitation in favor of childless living. So they call it child-free lifestyle. Similar to penalties for promoting LGBTQ issues. Fines for promoting child-free lifestyle will range from $537 to $43,000. Average salary in Russia is around $200. This ban will extend to the internet, mass media, films, and advertising. Some social media posts, such as memes, have already been removed from their contact. It's like a Facebook, their own thing. Which again, think about Project 2025. It's that mirrored situation, right? It really corresponds with it. And they call it all is under the label and umbrella, we're protecting traditional values. What values are you protecting? Child-free lifestyle. It's disgusting. That's why we follow you. We avoid all the MAGA drama. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you. I would too. Biggest watch party crew yet. Comments should be interesting. That's the whole thing. And I'm actually thinking for our VP debate watch party to still use something like Google Meet, whatever, so we can chit chat and ban people. I love the chat that we did have, but for me it felt a bit impersonal. We're going to talk at the town hall together about it. Also tomorrow, Keith, you asked about watch party, right? For Biden is tomorrow on The View. The View premieres at 11 a.m. Eastern. I have a meeting at an embassy at 11:30. So if I can't make it, I will, and I'll last minute will share it. I can't stream it on socials because it's ABC. They're going to close my account right away. So, but he is on The View tomorrow live. Biden is giving first interview after Kamala's debate. And he certainly loves Whoopi, and all this will be good conversation. Sounds familiar. JD taking Putin's talking point. I think Russia co-wrote this Project 2025 because think about LGBTQ issues. Child-free, that's the anti-women thing. We take the route of abortion thing, right? There they have penalties. In the US, you can't do it. Prohibit child-free lifestyle, and then you have $43,000 fines. We can't do this here yet. So they take the anti-abortion route, which pretty much leads to the same thing. Child-free lifestyle. Yeah, and they call it, they write it in Russian letters because I couldn't believe it. So I read like 5 different sources. Child-free. They write it in like with Russian letters, English word, child-free. And that's a rule. Now, in good news, the United States, via USAID, has announced an additional $114 million to address challenges faced by women in agri-food and water systems, increasing its total commitment to fiscal year 2023 to $449 million through the GROW initiative. This funding aims to combat discriminatory practices and promote gender equality, vital for building resilient food systems. Empowering women in agriculture could uplift millions, enhance global GDP by nearly $1 trillion, and significantly reduce food insecurity. Launched in April 2023, GROW focuses on providing women with essential tools and resources to overcome challenges such as gender-based violence and poverty, ultimately fostering improved food security and economic growth. And by the way, yesterday they had a session at CGI about food innovation, and it was a food tech thing, like a food tech conference, which was organized by two women from Saudi Arabia. So they're, I don't know if it was in Dubai, whatever. So they came in and they said the UAE, right? They talked about UAE being a very new country. They turned 57 years old, as they said. And in, I think it was 5 years ago, don't quote me, in the beginning, they started with, I think, 3 million people in the entire country. Now they have 9 million people with 20 million visitors annually. And so they said, we are in the hottest and the driest place, and we can't grow food. So all they can do is innovate. So they're doing those like vertical gardens where the roots are, so that the air is kept so moist that the roots can be just hanging, right? So it's like a vertical garden and everything grows there. So their idea is to share it with the Western world, so we can apply it, and especially countries such as Africa can apply it too. And they talked about that being so efficient and so cheap, right? If you just commit to innovating, you can feed the world. And then they said that by 2050, we simply will be running out of food because, unless we replace it with fake food, chemicals, and all the, artificially enhanced foods. But with real foods, we have to innovate to feed people accordingly, and just, by 2050. Child-free lifestyle. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Ukraine. Then it's all connected to the United Nations thing. Then we're going to talk about Biden speaking at the UN. Then we're going to talk about Iran speaking at the UN. We're going to talk about Biden speaking on China on the hot mic. And then we're going to talk about Trump, shitting on Ukraine. And then I'm going to share videos from yesterday, the meeting that I attended with the head of Zelensky's office, and we're going to discuss that. And the question was, why do they want to share their victory plan with Trump? So we talk about it. So yesterday, Zelensky with the First Lady of Ukraine sat down for an interview with ABC. So in that interview, Zelensky said, quote, "I think we're closer to peace than we think. We're closer to the end of the war." He urged Western nations to bolster their support for the Ukrainian army, emphasizing, quote, "The plan for victory is to strengthen Ukraine. So we ask our friends, our allies, to strengthen us. This is very important," end quote. Zelensky also pointed out that Russian President Putin is fearful of the Kursk operation. He said, "It's true, he's very afraid." Why? Because his people have seen that he cannot defend his entire territory. He's referring to that incursion into Russia, right, when thousands of Ukrainian army forces just marched through the border. Putin didn't defend anybody, still doesn't defend anybody. He highlighted that only from a strong position can Ukraine push Putin to stop the war. So let's take a look at this interview. Do I have it? Please tell me I have it. Or did I not upload it? Yes, I do have it. Here we go.
Now to Robin Roberts' exclusive interview tonight with Ukrainian President Zelensky and Ukraine's First Lady. They're here in the U.S. for the UN General Assembly meeting, looking for U.S. support for what Zelensky is calling a victory plan. Zelensky also visiting a munitions factory in Scranton, Pennsylvania, thanking the workers there, saying Ukraine still needs help. Robin asking him about that victory plan.
So, your victory plan, does it include, and I know you don't want to get into details until you talk to leaders, but negotiating with Russia, and how can you trust someone?
It's not about negotiating with Russia. No, it's about, like I said, it's a bridge to diplomatic way how to stop the war. The bridge is a plan of victory or victorious plan. It's a strengthening of Ukrainian army and Ukrainian people. Only in the strong position we can push Putin to stop the war, diplomatic way.
Zelensky did not say whether giving up land would be part of Ukraine's victory plan, making it clear he wants to present it to President Biden first. Robin will have.
I will share more on that plan in our town hall, just because I don't want to kick anybody's party. So, yeah, I'll share about that on the town hall on Friday. It does not involve any land giving up thing. Zelensky also met with Italian PM Meloni. This picture. Remember, Meloni hugs everybody, so here we go. They met in New York today. He spoke with G7, so he said, "It's always a pleasure to meet with Giorgia Meloni. On the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, we agreed on our next joint plans. I'm grateful to Giorgia for all the decisive steps taken by G7 under the Italian presidency and for her commitment to joint efforts in establishing a lasting and just peace." So, very cute. Do you remember how Meloni was looking at Orban? Rolling eyes at the G7. Now, it was stated today, I read a report by UN Human Rights Monitoring Association or whatever. They said repeated Russian attacks on energy infrastructure and power cuts in Ukraine will likely uproot an additional 500,000 people ahead of the coming winter. So 500,000 people in Ukraine, 500,000, will have to move. And specifically that affects Kharkiv, unfortunately. That's my birth city. That's what happened today. Just imagine, this is a house. There were apartments in between. They rescued 60 people. They're dead. They have hurt. They have all kinds of unfortunate things there. Here's a video. Comments. I'm reading your comments. That's very cute. You have a very serious way of describing news tonight. I hope all is well with you and my family. Yeah, they're fine. Thank you, though. World news you cover. No, it's because I spent 2 days being serious. I can't be joking around, at the conference. And I'll share more at the town hall. Don't let me blabber it out here, Daniel. Ukrainians have given food and medicine to Kursk residents. Yes, a big difference from what Russia brought upon the innocent people of Ukraine. I understand, yes. And there is a video, I'm going to show it to you, where Ukrainian forces come into apartments. They didn't do any damage. They didn't knock out the doors or windows or anything. And they found grandparents in different apartments chained to their beds to die from hunger. And they showed this grandma and they gave her water. And how happy she was. I can't. And then again today at the CGI, last thing was Navalny, right? The wife of Navalny, who urged to see the goodness in Russian people, and Russian people are not Putin, and blah 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 blah. Navalny was also very anti-Ukraine, by the way. I'm condemning everything that happened to him, but he thought Crimea is Russian. Um, you know, that's why Ukrainians have mixed feelings. We certainly feel very upset and sorry. What happened to him is crazy. He's just completely crazy. And by the way, I know people, photographers even, who work with for different outlets that did cover his funeral and now are seeking political asylum because they're being targeted inside Russia just for taking pictures at his funeral and covering for the public. So I'm very, very angry and upset about everything that happened to him. But after we seeing this, and this is video and photo footage telling us, that Russians are somehow different, with every day and with every death, it becomes more and more difficult to believe that they're different. And they post stuff too. There was, in fact, today a video where a Ukrainian woman with a kid in America was confronted by a Russian guy who started beating her up and screaming, what are you doing here? Get out, dirty whore, all that kind of stuff. Russian people. We didn't know Navalny was anti-Ukraine. He said Crimea, so he welcomed the annexation of Crimea. And it was illegal in 2014. He condemned the invasion, but he did not condemn the political way or diplomatic way of annexing Crimea and Donbass, because that started in 2014. It's been 10 years in. So Ukrainians have mixed feelings. I didn't, at least. Yeah, I mean, it's not talked about. And certainly if somebody is a figure that represents not just struggle, but political assassination, right? Pretty much. You don't talk bad about, dead people or those who are suffering. So certainly that's not being brought up. But, yesterday at that Council for Foreign Affairs meeting, the head of Zelensky office, Yermak, which is he doesn't hold an official position with Zelensky office, but he's from Zelensky's team. When Zelensky had the production company, his wife was the head of production company. He had actors. This guy was a producer, and then all of them became Zelensky's government. So he's his right hand, and he answered questions. He talked about the invasion in Kursk. He said it showed how weak Russia is, how weak not just Russian armies, but Russian regime is, because they decided absolutely not to protect anybody. They're not fighting Ukrainians there. They just, what are they pursuing? That they will not be bowing to Putin, that they, Zelensky wants open conversation, open dialogue, open negotiation. He doesn't want any deals under the table. He wants to be in the open officially, protecting the sovereign territory of the country, right? Because he said we are being oppressed. So we want this war to end like anybody else. We want it to end first and foremost. But it has to happen not by giving up territories, but by finding a solution for Russia to get the heck out. So here's a 3-minute video where he answers about giving up territories or not, which what we heard on ABC, right? And then he talks about Trump's 24-hour plan. Listen carefully to his reaction, and then we'll discuss. Take a look.
I never listened that about some American position that some of our American friends and partners say to us that they not believe or have some ideas for compromise for some territories. It's true. And of course, I think it will be difficult to find anybody in our world who will be ready to refuse of the sovereign territories which internationally recognized, especially after so hard war and so many lost of Ukrainians. It's the first. The second, yes, we listen about some plan of Donald Trump to finish the war during 24 hours. Let's see. I think, I hope the President Zelensky have the opportunity to meet with Donald Trump and ask him personally to explain how he think and how he see his scenario and his plan. And of course, I know that my president's ready to personally to present our victory plan to the Donald Trump. And by the way, they had very good phone conversations. And look, we are very open person. We are very honest. And the president, very principled person. It's mean that his peace formula, why it's so important? Because he in the beginning said, I wanted to have any negotiation. I don't trust Russia because you know that we have from 2019, we have more than 200 rounds of negotiations. Me personally, I participated in Normandy formats. Some of these negotiations, we stand with Germany and France and the representative of Russia, sometimes 12 hours non-stop with zero results. It's mean that we don't trust Russia. And of course, he wanted to have some under-tables negotiations. He said, I want to be very open. And I presented our plan because we are victim of aggressions. And we have this right to propose to the world and to listen all responsible countries their opinion. Because again, we don't ask anything more than described by international law. Let's see.
You don't trust Russia. Can I be frank? Can I be straightforward? That's a fact. It's not even an opinion. You say you don't trust Russia, Andrei. But you know Trump is Russia. But you had good conversation with him. Here's the disconnect for me. I don't understand how we can say this, and then we can follow up with this. These two are not connected. Here's a very big disconnect. You want to protect Ukraine, and now also add the aspect that Ukrainian lives are at stake. It's not just negotiations out of what national colors shall be on the Ukrainian flag. It's about revealing a game plan to somebody who will fast forward it to Kremlin right as you won't even be leaving. It will be right there. Or maybe he's wearing some devices that will be, allowing Russians to listen in. Who the heck knows? Like, why? You don't trust Russians? You know for a fact that Trump is a Russian asset. It's been talked about on, by the intelligence or whatever. At least you should have a doubt. At least we can agree that, okay, if you don't want me to call Trump Russian asset, okay, at least can we agree that there should be a doubt whether he could be related to Russians because they're sort of helped him in 2016 and they help him now. And it's been publicly stated. So if you have doubts, will you do that? And then you say we had good conversations, great conversations. What was so great in those conversations? Did you say kissy kissy? Or I hang up, no, you hang up, I hang up, no, you hang up. Like, what was so great about that conversation? That would have been my follow-up question. What was so great about those conversations? Because if you say one thing, say another. I'm not going to repeat my stance because I don't want to repeat it, but I'm just exhausted with it. Me too. I mean, I'm just tired of this thing. 2 days in a row. Yeah. Trump just trusted Zelensky at a rally. Yeah, I have videos for it. Um, Speaking of which, here's Trump.
Ukraine now, I see Zelensky is here. I think Zelensky is the greatest salesman in history. Every time he comes into the country, he walks away with $60 billion. Billion! Walks in with $60 billion. He wants them to win this election so badly. But I would do differently. I will work out peace as president-elect. If I win this election, the first thing I'm going to do is call up Zelensky and call up President Putin, and I'm going to say, you got to make a deal. This is crazy.
Get out. Just get out. I can't. Get out. I'm sorry. It's been almost, it's what, 3 years? Almost 3 years. I can't. My family lost house, and we lost friends, and then the entire life there. I'm Ukrainian born US citizen. I moved very long time ago. More than 2/3 of my life I'm not in Ukraine, but my family was. Don't tell me this bullshit. I'm not buying this. Yeah, I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist. I'm not buying this. Because this is not true. This hurts people. I understand that you're performing this act for those who actually didn't even buy a ticket, were paid to be there to listen to you. But that's another story. And they leave 28 minutes in. We have proof. But you're performing this act for them because they think this is a cool thing, that you say it and you show your balls. Maybe you should just open pants and show your balls for a change, because that's exactly what you're doing. And with your balls, only these folks are impressed. Putin isn't. Zelensky isn't. Nobody isn't. They will clap even if you lay it out. Just lay out your pipe, whatever. They'll be clapping for a change because it makes no sense. Now, they're now investigating Zelensky's visits to Philadelphia, where Zelensky, for the first stop in the US when he arrived, he went to the factory that produces the military aid that goes to Ukraine. So what is the $60 billion he leaves every time with $60 billion? It's total. First of all, 60 plus, then 62 billion. And majority of it stays in the United States to produce. So there's two things. One is with the allocated money, they're buying old equipment from Pentagon, and Pentagon buys new, like F-16s are going to Ukraine, F-35s are coming to Pentagon. And second, you need missiles, you need the components, right? You need the ammunition. This is produced in the US, in Philadelphia, for God's sakes. So it provides work spots, right? Jobs, union jobs, good jobs. And it's bought, the stuff is bought with the US dollars in the US. Now, you can't be that stupid. You can't be that clueless. That's rude. Here's Governor Shapiro, who's, by the way, very wonderful in person. Yesterday he was at the CGI 2024. He, you saw Zelensky signing the missiles or the munition. Here's Shapiro. He also signed something. Now, if anybody can read what the hell he wrote, because I can't. Take a look. There's like a whole paragraph. What did you write? Josh, what did you write? Governor? What is it? What did he write? I want to see what he wrote. You still have family there and love for your home nation. Thank you. Those are same talking points. Well, that's from Russia with love. Elon is from Russia with love. The grifter wants to grift off of the Ukraine people. The clip is yesterday. Today he boosted the number to 100 billion. Oh. Thank you. It's an update. This is why Ukraine Air Force pilots are so important, indeed. Exactly. Dollars used to buy used U.S. arms. Exactly. Skyman Follies. Yeah. And by the way, I remember you joined our very first town hall. Appreciate you. All right. He also answered a very quick clip, 6 seconds, as to did Ukraine get the permission to strike inside Russia?
Has Ukraine already received permission?
No.
Okay.
Quick answer. In air defense from World War II, air pilots would be able to fly multiple aircraft. With modern technology, one can only understand how systems work on one aircraft. What the Pentagon is working on, and this is what I'm going to describe from the Air Force conference, they are creating systems where you have an airplane and then you have airplane looking like drones. They don't have people in it, and they all fly together as a system, and the pilot is controlling multiple assets. It's like bunkers. It's really good. I'm going to share more on that. Zelenska today, that's the Zelensky's wife, received an award. Usually, this award it's UN related. It's for those who provoke change, big change. The UNICEF provided this award for her dedication to providing for kids ability to go to school and live some type of childhood. Again, those videos are very difficult to consume, but they're videos where kids that who live under not occupation, but those who live under bombings are interviewed. And you see this boy, and he's being interviewed as to, are you scared? He's like, yeah, first I was scared, and then, no, I understand this is Russian orcs. They want to kill us. They want to, diminish our power and the will to live, but we're not going to give up. And you look at this boy who's like 8 or 10 years old, and it's like he has a face of an older man. It's like you see that the body is still, it's a kid, but the facial expression, the kid aged far before it was time. And it's just, that generation, because I remember talking to my grandma, my grandpa, their brothers, sisters who lived through World War II, by the way, which Biden did too. They're, 10 years older than him. But, they could never go to Germany and have a good time. They could never, up to very last days, meet a German and be happy about it. Could never, because that changes you. That you as a kid see the suffering, you see your parents, your mother being raped or tortured or whatever. This doesn't leave you. So this generation of Ukrainians, I wonder how long will it take for Ukrainians to heal? And, because there's so many families that fell apart, mine included. We have relatives in Moscow, friends, and all of that, they're not going to pick up. You don't call them, and everything is listened to by Russia anyway. So everybody's afraid. So how long will it take to heal, to be even neutral? Because that's just, and then when I listen to, again, Navalny's wife today, you believe Russians are good, you have the good people, blah, blah. Difficult, very difficult to believe that somebody is good at this point. Now, at the UN, or they call it an ugly name, UNGA 79. We always called it UNGA, but I'm old school. It's UNGA now. Biden at the UN General Assembly urged not to weaken support for Ukraine. Quote, we cannot allow the situation to remain unchanged. We must maintain our support for Ukraine in order to preserve that country's freedom. We cannot turn a blind eye to aggression because it will lead to the destruction of a nation. For me, the answer is clear. For Ukraine to achieve a lasting, sustainable peace under the UN Charter, we cannot tire, we cannot look away, and we cannot weaken our support for Ukraine, he said. So here's a video. Let's listen to President Biden.
For the second year in a row, this gathering, dedicated to peaceful resolution of conflicts, is darkened by the shadow of war. An illegal war of conquest brought without provocation by Russia against its neighbor Ukraine. Like every nation in the world, the United States wants this war to end. No nation wants this war to end more than Ukraine. And we strongly support Ukraine in its efforts to bring about a diplomatic resolution that delivers just and lasting peace. But Russia alone bears responsibility for this war. Russia alone has the power to end this war immediately. And it's Russia alone that stands in the way of peace, because Russia's price for peace is Ukraine's capitulation, Ukraine's territory, and Ukraine's children. Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine without consequence. But I ask you this: if we abandon the core principles of the United States to appease an aggressor, can any member state in this body feel confident that they are protected? If we allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. We have to stand up to this naked aggression today and deter other would-be aggressors tomorrow. That's why the United States, together with our allies and partners around the world, will continue to stand with the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their sovereignty and territorial integrity and their freedom.
By the way, I see this highlight with Zelensky being tonight at 6 p.m. on CNN Situation Room, Wolf Blitzer. Anybody listen to it? I'll check it out later. But we literally had Clinton speaking at that time. So he also spoke about Gaza. Let's take a look.
We're also working to bring greater measure of peace and stability to the Middle East. The world must not flinch from the horrors of October 7th. Any country would have the right and responsibility to ensure that such an attack can never happen again. Thousands of armed Hamas terrorists invaded a sovereign state, slaughtering and massacring more than 1,200 people, including 46 Americans, in their homes and at a music festival. Despicable acts of sexual violence, 250 innocents taken hostage. I've met with the families of those hostages. I've grieved with them. They're going through hell. Innocent civilians in Gaza are also going through hell. Thousands and thousands killed, including aid workers. Too many families dislocated, crowding into tents, facing a dire humanitarian situation. They did not ask for this war that Hamas started. I put forward with Qatar and Egypt a ceasefire and hostage deal. It's been endorsed by the UN Security Council. Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip, ease the suffering in Gaza, and end this war. On October 7th, since October 7th, we've also been determined to prevent a wider war that engulfs the entire region. Hezbollah, unprovoked, joined the October 7th attack, launching rockets into Israel. Almost a year later, too many on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve. As we look ahead, we must also address the rise of violence against innocent Palestinians on the West Bank and set the conditions for a better future, including a two-state solution where Israel enjoys security and peace and full recognition and normalized relations with all its neighbors, where Palestinians live in security, dignity, and self-determination in a state of their own.
Keith, to your point, exactly. That was exactly my thought. This is all words. Nobody wants a two-state solution. It was interesting. At CGI, it was the Palestinian leader, not the Hamas. actual, who 10 years ago cried before Hamas was elected. In 2016, Hamas was elected, and then they threw away their constitution, and created this terrorist occupation, pretty much, of a country that was pretty democratic before. And he was there, and same old 10 years in, same stuff, different day. Problem is, nobody wants the two-state solution. Also, what did Israel do this whole year with Gaza? Those are just facts. Some are dead hostages and not given back yet. The same thing that have innocent victims in Ukraine. Yeah, and you don't even know during those negotiations, certainly, the American citizen hostage whose parents spoke at the DNC was killed first, right? And that was highly publicized, and Hamas knew what they're doing. So is there somebody left? How many? All remains to be seen. And as much as it hurts me, I don't think either side really bothers about hostages. Biden does. Both sides, I don't know if that's a reason to act a certain way, unfortunately. That's my guesstimation. Now, in the flippity flop flop, the government agreed to give money. I covered it yesterday. They agreed to issue a CR, not a full budget. They haven't agreed on the full budget, but they did agree on passing the CR that will keep the government open up until the election, and then they will see which direction the wind blows, so to speak. And Johnson blamed, of course, the Democrats. Meanwhile, they caused this whole thing by pushing the SAVE Act, right, demanding citizenship proof or whatever, which by law you're not allowed to vote in federal elections unless you're a citizen. I have been here forever, a very long time, as non-citizen, and I could never vote, even if I tried to. And then as citizen, I can vote. You can't even escape the possibility to vote because they're going to knock on your door every freaking time. It's New York City. So you have to be registered to be on this list when you go there, to be on the ballot. Nobody's sending illegal ballots. Now he's spreading misinformation that Democrats want people abroad to vote and they are not citizens. And how about military? Like members, should they not be voting? Because they are the majority that is overseas and vote. Like, what are you talking about? Disgusting. But here's Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Thanks to all of you to being here. This is the last one for a while until the election. We're in the home stretch, and we're exactly 6 weeks out from the election now. It'll be here before we know it. Can't get here soon enough from our perspective. Voters in Virginia, Minnesota, and South Dakota are already casting their first votes in the nation. They began that Friday, and in the next 2 weeks, there'll be a number of states commence early voting around the country. And yet, millions of Americans, as our majority leader was just articulating here, they have no idea where Kamala Harris stands on major issues, and they have no way to ascertain that because she refuses to sit down for real interviews. No tough questions have been asked.
Gaslighting. This what Biden opened the Quad meeting with. He left his mic on for a few or half a minute or a minute. And although we had a gaggle and a briefing by the National Security Council stating specifically to a question whether China will be point of discussion, they said, no, China is not going to be discussed. It's not point of discussion. And then Biden kicks off the meeting, Quad meeting, whether he left his mic on by accident, whether it was on purpose. I don't think at this point something happens on accident. I think it was on purpose. But it just shows us, I will read out what he said. Please pay attention to one thing. Yes, what he says about China. And second, he could have left it on to show those who said he has dementia. He's, like a sick individual that has absolutely no clue where he is or what he does and like poops in his pants. Those are quotes. Think about his mindset and what he talks about and how, because he's not reading a paper. He's kicking off a Quad meeting with 3 other leaders. Again, Japan, Australia, India. So he says, quote, make no mistake, we see this as a change in tactic, not a change in strategy. At least from our perspective, we believe Xi Jinping is looking to focus on domestic economic challenges and minimize the turbulence in China diplomatic relations. And he's also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue China's interest, which is, by the way, good news. He says, I spoke with President Xi in April. My national security advisor recently traveled to Beijing for a few weeks ago. And we see this engagement as important for conflict prevention and crisis management amidst our strategic competition. While we've secured some gains in US, China about bilateral relations that are important. At that point, oh wait, there's another one. China continues to behave aggressively, testing this all across the region, and it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South China, South Asia, and the Taiwan Straits. It's true across the scope of our relationship, including on economic and technology issues. At the same time, we believe intense competition requires intense diplomacy. At this point, audio cuts off. I don't believe it was left on by accident. I mean, really? But the logic is stunning, pretty good news. It's sort of like a way to share the news without sharing the news. I think it was done diplomatically. We know Biden plays chess, not checkers. Highly, suspect that it was left on by accident, but I wanted to read it out to you. This CR expires a few days before Christmas. It's insane. MAGA can't even do basic governing, and yet millions continue to want them in power. Dodo birds. You know how they died? One screamed, everybody ran to see what the hell happens to this fella, and everybody got slaughtered. Funding of our government will happen, but funding for the government support of democracy is at stake. Yeah, that's if they push for courts and stuff. Yeah, we need to win the House of Representatives and our U.S. Senate to give Kamala the keys to unlocking our national potential. Yeah, and that's exactly what Clinton's talk about today. Speaking of which, let's talk rather quickly, about today, day 2 of the Clinton Global Initiative. Some clips and photos that I want to show you. First, it started some moments that stood out to me. There were so many things. I mean, I can give you a full list of people who were there, from mayors to mayors. They created a whole association of mayors who are committing to clean power. So the mayor of London and the mayor of city in Ohio, they're all together and having, it's incredible. I love it. And it's all part of CGI commitment to goals. But first, the administrator of NASA, the head of NASA, Bill Nelson, he kicked off describing 2 pictures. He said, listen, I'm here to describe 2 pictures. First, he took this very famous picture from the moon taken by the astronauts. Take a look.
1968. Apollo 8 is circling the moon. And the crew, Borman, Lovell, and Andrews, are in that orbit, and on their 4th orbit, they come from the far side of the moon, and all of a sudden, Bill Anders sees Earthrise.
And so you saw Earthrise, and then he spoke about, we know Earth as a blue planet, right? We see the Earth as blue. But it's because of our atmosphere. But our atmosphere, because of the climate change, because the planet is overheating at very high speeds, 1.5 degrees per year, that's how the Earth now looks like. And he said, as an astronaut, when you're in space, you don't have a party affiliation. You feel like the resident of Earth. And he said, I wish we could fly every damn politician who is anti-climate change, who thinks it's a hoax. It was really straightforward to MAGA and Trump directed. That I wish we could fly you so you could finally shut up and realize what the heck you're doing. It's very straightforward. I'm paraphrasing, but it was very, very, very straightforward. Then another moment which I truly admired and adored, of course, is Jane Goodall and Jose uh, 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 Fernandez, yeah. They joined Katie Couric, who are also like in a conversation. Here's them entering to a standing ovation.
Today. So we have so much to talk about and not a ton of time. So let me get right to it, Jose.
Jose Andres. I'm so sorry. Jose Andres, the founder and executive chairman of Jose Andres Group. And of course, Jane Goodall, who runs her organization. And she said that, Katie asked everybody, both of them, how did they get to do what they do? Because both of them are changing lives and changing lives in different way. One is about feeding people, right, with Central Kitchen in Ukraine, in Gaza, under losing employees in war conditions, and he shares his story, and I'm going to play the video of it. When it came to Jane, he said, "I watched the movie Tarzan, and he fell for Jane, and I'm Jane, and I'm like, huh." But then I really fell for chimpanzees, and started studying it. And now her organization teaches kids and teenagers in a program where they have to present a plan to benefit the planet, to benefit people, to benefit animals. And so whatever they do has to check those 3 boxes, and that is now operational in more than 70 countries. And she just herself turned 90 years young. So here's Jose Andres sharing his story, how he realized that food is, first of all, his purpose, and how he will benefit Earth with that. Take a look. Whoop, that's not him. That's Prince Harry. That will be next one. So here he is.
My mom. My mother, she was a nurse. We saw what nurses did during the pandemic. But beyond watching my mom working in the hospital, because we didn't have a nanny, and my father and my mother both work in the hospital, we will be exchanged right there in the emergency room between father and mother, just taking us to school or taking us home. But my mom was an excellent cook. For her, love was cooking. My father too. But my mom, at the end of the month, when there was no more money left, she will open the fridge, which will be empty. And like a magician, we'll be able to make croquetas, those bechamel fritters that my brothers and I will be fighting to see who ate the last croquette on the tray. I'm only saying this because then moving 15 years later, I arrived in Washington, D.C. 1993, and I went to cook for the few in a restaurant. But they didn't realize at that moment, watching my mom making croquetas out of nothing could serve me then to not only feed the few, but feed the many. I went to a place called This Is Central Kitchen. It's where I met President Clinton. This Is Central Kitchen was an amazing place where food provided hope to people. A guy who was a bartender, who saw that everybody was talking about food waste, but he said, actually, we're not wasting food, what we are wasting is people's life. I saw a kitchen that was giving hope to homeless, training them to be cooks. In the process, feeding the homeless population in DC. In the process, people like me being able to hire those men and women. I began going to volunteer to the kitchen, and I began sharing the same lessons I learned from my mom. Robert Ever told me at the very beginning, in 1993, and this impacted my life forever. He told me that philanthropy seems very often is about the redemption of the giver, when philanthropy must become the liberation of the receiver, who was going to tell me that that humble croquette of my mom that she made with love for me and my brothers, that same mentality of doing anything we can with nothing, using love and creativity, then could help me join an organization as a young cook where I learned the power of food to build longer tables.
That's so interesting.
So imagine you listen to this kind of conversations for 2 days in a row. How are you going to feel? That's the cloud I'm on right now. Back to Earth tomorrow at those events at the UN. Um, then Jane also mentioned that protecting the planet essentially is mostly important because that does affect food, right? Food consumption affects the climate, all of it. It's interconnected. And so then Jose Andres shared that, given this conversation, his story is as to I cannot provide food to somebody if I know I'm harming the planet by it. So conscious consumption, conscious avoiding waste of food, reusing, right, or whatever, like using whatever leftovers. All of that is part of caring for the environment that then provides home to animals too. So it's very much interconnected. Everything we do is connected to our home, and this is we're citizens of Earth. Um, Bill Nelson said it. Like it when you think about it, it's just so true, but we don't talk about it very often. And then Jane, speaking of moments that stood out to me, she finished talking about voting and how it is important. Take a look.
For a long, long time, but now we've got together with them and help them to slow these things down so that they have a future.
In fact, you have a whole campaign you're embarking on and a little prop you want to share with us.
The thing is that this year is it's a very special year because there have been 48 elections around the world. And, I think many people have got fed up with politicians, and many people I've met just say, well, I'm not going to bother to vote, there's no point. But every vote counts. And with the world in the mess it's in today, okay, maybe you don't particularly care about any candidate, but choose one who's more likely to protect the planet, which means your future and your children's future.
I'm both for choice, I'm both for peace.
And do you feel as hopeful as Jane does in terms about of the young people you encounter, Jose?
Well, my daughter Inez was inspired by Jane. My daughter right now, like many other daughters, my daughter is somewhere in Africa. She's been in Chad, she's been in the border in Sudan, working with World Food Program. Because she said, I want to have boots on the ground. And the only way we're going to be.
So, what was really interesting that Jose Andres also said that when he is helping in Gaza, women are coming to him and said, I hope, I wish I had a passport. I could go to Israel and tell them we're not against you. And the same thing he faced in Israel, where women said, I hope I could go to Gaza and say we're not against you. And then he finished with a very controversial statement saying, both nations who love hummus should not be fighting. And everybody exploded because there's this big debate who owns the hummus thing. So that was like a big, scary moment for a second. Then I want to just describe one gentleman. So this gentleman came from Turkey to the United States. He had absolutely no clue about entrepreneurship or business. His parents had a farm where they had cows and they produced milk products. And he knew how to make different products. So he came to US and he's in New York and he's struggling financially. He's on a visa, then green card, he's an immigrant. Language is so. And so he goes to buy yogurt and he's like, oh, there's no good yogurt. Everything has so much sugar in it. There's no good yogurt that has probiotics that I really like. So he gets, somehow he convinces to buy a very old broken farm in upstate New York. And he decides that he knows how to make yogurt and the rest will be history. And so he goes through the struggles of getting capital, becoming a citizen later on. He said there were moments where he wanted to end his life, end his company, but he succeeded. Within 5 years, his company was worth $1 billion. And this company is Chobani. And this is him. This is
It's almost
Right.
the video. It's a founder of Chobani right here on the right. He's from Turkey. And then I eat Chobani twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. So, I'm really probiotic is part of yogurt. Yeah, but if you put so much sugar in it, and that's what he explained. For me, I eat like yogurt with nothing in it. Because I'm European. Like, we have kefir, we have this kind of stuff. We don't get so much sugar and everything. So I kind of understand his point. But Katie Couric also said Chobani is her favorite thing. I'm not advertising Chobani. I'm advertising the story of doing, right? And so then he said he learned, based on his family, that having a job is a part of having your dignity, and restoring your dignity by getting a job and having a mission to wake up and be part of the society, paying tax, having income to do things, build your life, take care of your loved ones. That is very important for immigrants, especially refugees. So he interviewed a bunch of refugees in upstate New York, and he discovered that there are three main problems. People don't speak the language. They don't have a car to get to work, and they don't know how the work should be done in this particular country. Like, for instance, you can know the job profession itself, but how exactly, like, what are the norms, right, in the US to do the job? And so he developed a program where he sends buses to pick up immigrants, right, so they can get to work safely. He has translators, and he coached them how to work. And so Chobani's 20% of employees are immigrants, refugees, and he said that you see people in even person's eyes, like how their life changes just by having a job and being part of this society. And so he advocates for hiring immigrants, and he said, look, this is not like this is like we are a nation that welcomes immigrants. We are a nation based on immigrants. We are, like Biden said, it's not like we're refreshing us with immigrant blood. We are the blood of immigrants, like all of us. It's together, all in one. Let me see what this picture is about. Yes, so that's Katie on the left. That's him, and that's another entrepreneur. I have to see what her name is for our newsletter. Then finally, Prince Harry spoke for a very long time. I'm going to play the video to you. That's the whole thing he appeared with. His main point was to talk about protecting children and creating programs. He has the Archwell Foundation, and they're creating parents program to teach kids how to deal with online hate, harassment, and social media in general. So please take a look. Here's Prince Harry.
Good morning, everybody. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the world's first satellite, marking humanity's first stride into the vast expanse of space. And then in 1961, we witnessed a monumental achievement as Yuri Gagarin became the first human to journey into space, a feat that captured the imagination of people around the globe. And of course, we cannot forget 1969, when American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history with the first successful human landing on the moon, a triumph that showcased the boundless potential of human invention and spirit. Over the course of our history, humankind has dared to exceed the limitations of possibility. We've dreamed the inconceivable, we've built the unimaginable, and as a result, we live in a time where accessibility to everything, everywhere, all at once, rests in the palm of our hands. Yet, While we celebrate global achievements and their impact, there is still critical work to do. And so, I stand before you today to speak about the pervasive threat that our online world poses to us, especially our children, if we allow the status quo to remain. In an age where our lives are intertwined with technology, we cannot afford to only see the online world as a space for profitability, competition, and rapid growth. Instead, we must come together to ensure the digital space is one that fosters well-being, connection, and hope. Young people today are disproportionately affected by negative experiences online and mental health issues stemming from their digital interactions. They know it. The statistics prove it. They're navigating an environment that is often hostile and overwhelming. Reports of anxiety, depression, and social isolation linked to these platforms have surged in recent years, creating a crisis that cannot be ignored. These challenges are compounded by the relentless spread of unreliable and unfounded information, leaving many feeling isolated, confused, and scared. These are not distant problems. They're epidemics currently testing our resolve, and they cannot be ignored. My lock screen is a picture of my kids. What's yours? These children and thousands more meant the world to their families. The beautiful faces you see before you, their smiles, their dreams, all lost. All too soon, and all because of social media. It's why we launched the Parents Network, a global community that provides crucial support to parents whose children have suffered from the harmful effects of social media. And it is because of them that we at the Archwell Foundation are committed to this issue.
So, I'll post the whole video. It's like 6 minutes or so. I just was called to cover Biden tomorrow at, I'm not going to tell you when. Can't. But it's he's hosting an event with world leaders launching a joint declaration of support for Ukrainian recovery and reconstruction in New York. So I'll report from there. Interesting. Kamala Harris tomorrow has a rally in Pittsburgh at 3:30 p.m. I'll post a link for you to watch because at that point I will be with Biden. Interesting. I'm happy. Not supposed to see him tomorrow, but I will. Yay. And then what else did I just get? If you have any questions, please let me know. Biden ate and bought pants. If that's of an interest, certainly. White House press pool is very into that information, and he called it late at 8:34, and they're thinking, did he go to bed or did he not go to bed? I don't think it matters, but, whatever. On this note, I guess that's it. Oh, there's one video I wanted to show you. There's an old video from Mitt Romney. Listen to this. Forget about party. Forget about Republican Party. Forget about anything. Listen to this. Do you hear him say what Kamala Harris actually says? Take a look. It's final video.
We're a nation of immigrants. We're the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the ones who wanted a better life. The driven ones. The ones who woke up at night hearing that voice telling them that life in the place called America could be better. They came not just in pursuit of the riches of this world, but for the richness of this life. Freedom. Freedom of religion. Freedom to speak their mind. Freedom to build a life. And yes, freedom to build a business with their own hands.
Yeah. Yes, Keith, to your point, she's delivering a policy, I know. Also, one thing I wanted to share, I didn't post about it today. I was on a call today with the Harris campaign, and What's his name? Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban and the head of the Teamsters Black Caucus. Yeah. And they both spoke about planning to rally for Harris and Walz. So that's the news I forgot to share, but I was on that call. Meanwhile, in session with Pritzker. So it was like a two-story thing. And another thing is that Walz attended a private fundraiser with Alex Soros at his apartment. Yes, that is his apartment in Tribeca. On the right is Alex Soros, and on the left is very much dressed up Walz. He looks sharp. He gives me a little Biden vibes. Okay. Looks great. So that happened Monday, yesterday. There was no press. Certainly, I mean, it's in Soros's apartment. Certainly, there would be no press. And if you wonder where Kamala Harris raised $27 million, she was in Cipriani or Cipriani, whatever you wish to call it, at Wall Street. That's a weird picture, honestly, so far. Yes, but it's always with Alex Soros. He takes a picture with you, he's like 3 meters apart. It's a thing. I don't know if it's like I understand if it's like you do that next to a woman so nobody makes up stuff, but like Walz, and there's not a table, because that's what I was discussing with somebody who, by the way, will be joining Onest Network. And I said, "Is there a table in between?" And they're like, "No, there's no table. There's like a chair." So weird. And he posted 3 pictures on his Instagram, all very far apart. So I was like, that he can be cropped out. I don't know what the deal is, but they raised money. We don't know how much, and they would not release it. Now, yesterday, what I said, I'm checking on the Lula. Lula is supposed to, the president of Brazil, supposed to speak yesterday at the Clinton Global Initiative and receive an award, and then he didn't show up. The rumor is that he didn't pass through the Secret Service security. Something, I don't know. So he couldn't enter because Biden showed up as a surprise for Jill Biden and then got the award as a surprise to him from Clinton. You follow? Today I asked CGI, can you confirm, can you deny? And they were like, So we don't know. But a very nervous NBC reporter ran up to me and said, "Did you hear? We're reporting that on the news, and I want to know if it's true." I said, "That's how you guys work? You are reporting it on the news, and you want to know if it's true." That tells me everything, honey, bunny. So that was it. So tomorrow I'm going to share what I can share from the Biden's event. From I have a few events at certain embassies. Whatever I can share, where I can take you with me, I will. And some meetings that I simply can't share. So more on the town hall. Okay, join if we're planning for Friday night. If not, then around, I think, midday or something on Saturday. That's when we will be meeting for the town hall. It's our second option. I mean, like, to your point, like, it just, it's like, so, like, it's being shared on live television. I want to confirm it. I was like, why is it shared on live television? And now what the hell? Mark Cuban likes her economic plans, and he should know. Yeah, and I hope he will buy this Twitter shitter or something. Yeah, and that's about the picture. Okay, guys, I'm going to write the newsletter and fall asleep 3 times during that. So see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow when? I will post when. Because it depends when my last meeting ends. But I will see you tomorrow, and and Biden just approved New York disaster declaration. What happened in New York? Tropical Storm Debbie from August 8th to August 10th. So he approved New York disaster declaration just now. Lid going to bed at 8:30. Up your behind, Politico. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Get your newsletter, onest.substack.com. You get your news, you get your actual news. Today, a bunch of people saw the newsletter. CGI, the Clinton Global Initiative, they saw the newsletter. We all talked about our community feeling, and more will be on the town hall. All right? Okay. Thank you so much. If you want to sign up for the debate, do it as soon as possible. We have 300 people signed up by now through the DNC, so we will cap it. Not because we can host unlimited number of people. I'm worried more about the chat, and people who did not really sign up through the newsletter. So if we get 500, I think we should cap it that. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and see you tomorrow. Have a good night.